The popular image of manipulation involves dramatic tactics, deception, aggression, transparent psychological tricks. That's the work of novices. True masters of manipulation never reveal frustration or expose their strategy. They maintain composure, discipline. Rather than confronting you head-on, they plant seeds of confusion and allow them to fester internally. They don't shatter you through aggression, they erode you through questions you begin asking yourself. Today, I'm breaking down 7 rare manipulation tactics almost no one talks about. Techniques that fly under the radar, feel harmless at first, and are used every single day on people who think they're too smart to fall for them. Chances are, you've already been hit with a few. And before anyone calls this conspiracy, the description includes sources and fact checks. This isn't motivation or opinion, it's documented psychology. Now lock in. Let's get into it. 1. Conversational ownership. This is about control without confrontation. The manipulator doesn't dominate the conversation by arguing or interrupting. You don't even feel resistance. That's the point. They quietly take the steering wheel. Here's how it works. You ask a direct question. They give you just enough of an answer to avoid suspicion, then smoothly reroute the conversation toward a subject they chose. Something irrelevant, something emotionally loaded, something that subtly shifts the power dynamic and puts you on the defensive. Before you realize it, you're no longer getting clarity, you're explaining yourself. The original question disappears, and they walk away having avoided accountability while keeping control. Example, you ask, "Why didn't you show up yesterday?" They respond, "Yeah, sorry, but why do you always assume the worst about me?" Notice what just happened. The issue was their absence. Now the focus is your attitude, your trust issues, your flaws. They didn't deny anything. They didn't raise their voice. But the frame has shifted, and suddenly you're the one defending yourself. That's narrative control, and once they have it, they don't need to win the argument. They already did. 2. Strategic vulnerability. This one is more subtle, and that's what makes it dangerous. It looks honest, even emotional. They'll open up about something personal, past trauma, stress, insecurity, but it's not spontaneous. It's timed, deployed when pressure is on them. The moment accountability enters the room, they introduce vulnerability to flip the power dynamic. You hesitate, you soften, you feel guilty for pressing further. And just like that, the conversation shifts from holding them responsible to protecting their feelings. It feels human, it feels real, but it's still control. They expose a weakness at the perfect moment, not to bond, but to disarm you. Once your guard drops, they move in with guilt, influence, and quiet pressure. It rarely looks dramatic. Sometimes it's a wavering voice, a carefully chosen childhood story, a tear that arrives right on cue. You think they're struggling. I should ease up. But that moment of sympathy just shifted the balance of power. What looked like pain became permission. The vulnerability wasn't about connection, it was currency. It bought them control. 3. The reverse anchoring. They open with something extreme, a ridiculous demand, a wild accusation, an obviously unfair offer. It's meant to shock you. Of course you reject it. That's not resistance, that's part of the setup. Then they pull back and present a second option, calmer, more reasonable. Compared to the first, it feels fair. It feels like progress. But here's the reality. That second offer was the target from the start. You didn't negotiate your way to it, you were guided there. You didn't gain ground. You just stepped exactly where they wanted you. 4. Intentional misinterpretation. This is one of the cleanest and most effective control tactics because it never looks aggressive. You say something simple, direct, reasonable, and they don't misunderstand it, they recode it. On purpose, you say, "I need space." They come back with, "So you're abandoning me again." Notice what just happened. Your boundary was neutral. Their response turned it into an accusation. Now the conversation is no longer about what you need, it's about defending your character. You're not talking about space anymore. You're talking about loyalty, intent, guilt, and here's where the leverage comes in. Once they twist your words, you're pulled into clarifying mode. You start explaining. You soften your language. You backpedal to sound less harsh, That's not what I meant. You're taking it the wrong way. I just meant for a little while. Every sentence you add weakens your original position. Not because you were wrong, but because you're now reacting inside their framing. That's the trap. Intentional misinterpretation forces you onto defense while they sit comfortably on offense without ever raising their voice. They get to act wounded, confused, or disappointed, while you look cold, insensitive, or unstable. And the more you explain, the more power they gain. Because explanations imply guilt, clarifications imply error, even when there was none. Over time, this conditions you. You start pre-editing your words before you speak. You choose safer language. You avoid direct statements. You suppress boundaries because you already know how they'll be twisted. That's not communication anymore, that's self-censorship. And here's the key detail most people miss. This tactic isn't about misunderstanding you. It's about controlling the narrative. By redefining what your words mean, they decide what the conflict is about. And if they control the frame, they control the outcome. Strong people communicate clearly. Manipulators punish clarity. The moment you recognize intentional misinterpretation for what it is, you stop over-explaining. You restate once calmly, and you don't chase their distortion. Because the second you stop correcting lies, the game loses its power. 5. The illusion of truth effect. Here's a hard psychological reality. Repetition breeds belief. The human brain mistakes familiarity for truth. Manipulators exploit this by repeating the same lie, half-truth, or subtle accusation over and over, casually, calmly, consistently. No drama, no urgency, just repetition. Over time, resistance weakens, doubt creeps in. Eventually, what once sounded wrong starts to feel normal. And once something feels normal, it stops being questioned. At first, you push back. You know something feels off, but repetition is a pressure weapon. Over time, it dulls your edge and erodes your judgment. When the same accusation is repeated often enough, your mind starts to treat it like fact. They keep saying you're too sensitive, again and again, calmly, casually. Eventually, you stop arguing, not because they're right, but because you're tired. And in that silence, the lie takes root. That's the illusion of truth at work. 6. Triangulation. This one thrives in toxic dynamics and still catches smart people off guard. Instead of confronting you directly, they recruit a third voice to corner you. Real or fabricated, it doesn't matter. Even Sarah thinks you're overreacting. My friends all say you've changed. Now it's no longer one opinion against yours. It feels like a verdict. The goal isn't honesty, it's pressure. When they can't control you alone, they surround you. It creates pressure from every angle. You're no longer just dealing with one person, you're facing an invisible jury that's already decided you're wrong. It isolates you inside your own relationship and quietly rewrites reality until you feel like the outsider. The problem, the unstable one. The goal isn't agreement, it's self-doubt. By surrounding you with supposed supporters, they corner your perception until you start questioning your instincts instead of their behavior. 7. Emotional timeout. When tension rises, they don't explode, they disappear. Not physically, but emotionally. No replies, no eye contact, no tone, no warmth. Just a cold, deliberate absence. And that silence isn't accidental. It's calculated. Because the moment they withdraw, the balance of power shifts. Now you're alone with your thoughts. The mind starts racing. Did I push too hard? Was I unfair? Should I fix this? The longer the silence stretches, the heavier it gets. Anxiety fills the gap they created. Eventually, you break it not because you were wrong, but because the discomfort became unbearable. You apologize just to restore peace. That's the trick. They never had to explain themselves, never had to admit fault. The silence did the work for them. They didn't overpower you. They didn't out-argue you. They didn't even raise their voice. They stepped back and let you do the damage for them. They turned your mind into the battleground and walked away clean. That's the real trick when manipulation reaches the point where the manipulator doesn't need to speak anymore because you've taken over the job. That's why these tactics are so dangerous. They don't look like control. They feel like misunderstandings, emotions, normal relationship tension. They don't announce themselves. They operate quietly, beneath the surface, shaping your reactions, your guilt, your self-doubt. They whisper until your inner voice starts repeating their words for them. But once you see the pattern, it breaks. Awareness is the line they can't cross. The moment you can name the tactic, it loses power. You stop reacting on instinct. You stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from your confusion. You stop playing defense in a game that was rigged from the start. Remember this: manipulation only works in the dark. Clarity is hostile to control. If this video sharpened your awareness, hit the like button. It helps this reach people who need it. And if you want more deep, practical psychology like this, subscribe. Stay sharp.